Washington, and we are coming on the air with breaking news on the war against Iran, with the U.S. military saying in a statement moments ago another U.S. service member has been killed in action. CENTCOM says this person was serving in northern Iraq and was killed Saturday during a controlled detonation of material from a downed Iranian attack drone. That's after we learned that 2 other U.S. troops were killed Friday during Iranian attacks on a base in Jordan. Somebody else had been missing in connection to that incident. The military now says unidentified remains have been found at the location earlier today. Let me bring in Keir Simmons, who is live for us in the region. And Keir, it is yet another development after a weekend full of them. We'll stand by for Keir, but let me bring in Julie Tsirkin, who's at the White House here. This information, Julie, coming from the U.S. military, as we have seen a continuation of attacks against Iran, U.S. strikes, Julie, and concern that this is now re-escalating into wider war.
Yeah, Republican lawmakers were expressing that concern, Hallie, even over this weekend as the president is here in New Jersey, of course, attending the World Cup game. So far, not commenting himself, aside from telling reporters before this new information from Central Command that he was very sad about the deaths of the 2 service members, Hallie, that we heard about after that ballistic missile strike from Iran on a base in Jordan. This new information, as you mentioned, CENTCOM revealing that now a 3rd service member had died, this time in northern Iraq, following a controlled detonation of an explosive there from Iran in the region, Hallie. And we're also waiting to see what happened, waiting to hear what happened, rather, about the 3rd missing in action service member, Hallie, that had to do in connection with the ballistic missile strike from Friday night. The remains, Hallie, according to Central Command, found in the same area as those 2 service members were found dead. So at this point, Central Command not identifying who that person is, but we're waiting to find out. All of this, Hallie, though, big picture, brings the total service members killed over the course of this war in Iran over the last several months to 17 at least. We know others are wounded as well, and it begs the question, even still, as we've seen 8 straight nights of strikes from the U.S. against Iran, even yesterday, whether the U.S., whether President Trump chooses to respond further now that Iran has continued to kill more U.S. service members. We know the president, Hallie, had stated last week that he potentially plans to escalate this conflict in the coming days by targeting civilian infrastructure. The president saying he directed the Pentagon, Hallie, to be ready to hit all civilian infrastructure, from power plants to bridges. Not only Republican lawmakers, as I mentioned, but Democratic lawmakers expressing their condolences, Hallie, to the families of the service members. I had asked the White House whether the president had spoken to those families. I have not yet heard back on that. But of course, the nation, I think really the world, bracing to see what happens here as a conflict. Just a couple of weeks ago, Hallie, we thought we're in the peace agreement stages. Now, of course, that peace agreement had fallen apart. Hallie.
Julie Tsirkin, thank you. Let me bring back in Keir, who's joining us from Jordan now. And Keir, this is a region that remains, for obvious reasons, on edge.
It certainly is, Hallie. Here in Jordan, we arrived just a few hours ago immediately to the sound of air raid sirens and the news that more Iranian missiles were heading in this direction. In fact, they headed to the south of the country and were intercepted, according to Jordanian officials. But it does look as if they were looking to strike a port area and potentially an airport in that part of this country. And that will be an indication of the Iranians escalating and expanding, attempting to hit other places that perhaps the region might use, for example, as a workaround for the Strait of Hormuz. Translation, the Iranians saying, we will not allow you to circumvent the port of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I mean, of course, look, this is going to be another devastating day for the families of those service people who have been killed, and we don't know their names yet. And U.S. Central Command saying yesterday that it would hold off releasing their names until 24 hours after the families have been informed. And of course, as you were hearing there, one of those who is still missing, there does appear to be pretty bad news about that service person, but we don't know, and CENTCOM isn't able at this point to confirm, it does put more pressure on the president, who right now, as we speak, is at the World Cup final watching that match. It does put more pressure on President Trump over his intentions in this region, because Iran, every time, it's simply like this. Every time that the US strikes Iran, Iran appears to find some way of striking back in multiple countries neighboring Iran, US partners and allies, including Jordan, here where I am.
Keir Simmons live for us there in Jordan. Keir, we'll look for more of your reporting coming up tonight on Nightly News on NBC. For now, though, that does it for this breaking news report. Much more on NBC News Now and NBCNews.com for the latest. For Julie, for Keir, for all of us at the network, I'm Hallie Jackson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.